What's going on, guys? It's Sway, and this is how I shoot a sick fitness video. Now, all of these tips are geared towards videographers, but if you happen to be an influencer with a tripod, all these tips are going to work for you as well. Now, first off, the technical shit. For a cinematic looking edit, you're going to want to shoot around 50 millimeters in focal length. This is my personal favorite focal length to shoot with, just because there's low distortion, so everything's going to seem to look more realistic. The lowest I personally go is 35 millimeter, which is actually going to be perfect for all of you guys who are shooting in smaller confined spaces, or if you're using a tripod to record yourself. Now, for the footage you're currently looking at, this was all shot with a Sigma 24 to 70 millimeter. Typically, when I'm shooting these videos for Condemened Labz, we have some informational content mixed in, and I'll normally shoot that wider at around 35 or 24 millimeters. But if I was strictly here to just do cinematic edits, I would only be shooting with my 50 millimeter. Next up, the workout. Now, my style is all out realism, so I don't have people do any exercises or movements they typically wouldn't do just for the camera. So I'll normally just have whoever I'm shooting train the way they normally do. I'll take care of the rest and make sure they look like a bad motherfucker. I prefer shooting this way personally just because everything looks organic and less staged because, well, it's an actual workout, so it is organic and it's not staged. This also cuts down on the possibility of injury because the person is going through a workout they would typically go through, hopefully with weights that they're comfortable using. And this is just a side note on this current tip that I got from shooting with Dusty Hanshaw. He says always, or just his tip to athletes is, don't do anything on camera that you typically wouldn't do. So don't try to go for a new PR or pull some new weight or do some fancy shit just for the camera. You're pretty much asking to get hurt. And as far as bodybuilding and fitness goes, longevity is the name of the game. So yeah, don't do any shit for the camera, just for the camera. Next up, movement. So to keep the video feeling hype and intense and keeping you engaged, I typically like to add a lot of movement in my videos. People have short ass attention spans, so even if the shot is just one set from start to finish, I'm moving around the entire time just to keep your brain working. And also, if you happen to be moving around and you're shooting in a gym, please be mindful of your surroundings. The last thing you want to happen is that you trip over a piece of equipment and you injure yourself, or break your camera, or even worse, you bump into somebody else and injure them. So my rule of thumb is, before I even take a step, I look down and around at the ground to see where I'm gonna go, just so I don't end up tripping on anything. And movement is actually gonna lead me to my next point. Shoot handheld. Now, you can 1000% use a gimbal or a glide cam for fitness videos. If that's your style, go for it. Me personally, I love to shoot handheld for multiple reasons, and here's why. One, I like the shakiness of the footage. It gives this kind of raw feeling that makes you feel like you're right there watching shit go down. Two, I have better control over the image rather than letting the gimbal do whatever it feels like doing, or allowing my camera's autofocus to do what it feels like doing, which I don't even use this camera's autofocus because it's trash. And number three, I like to keep it low key. A lot of gyms aren't comfortable having camera guys or videographers in there because they're immediately assuming that you're coming in with a whole bunch of equipment, lights, and just a whole bunch of shit going on, and that it's going to negatively impact their members, which is totally understandable. People signed up to go to the gym to, well, train at a gym, not to have camera people to navigate around. Now, I've had many shoots where the guy or the girl at the front desk says that the gym isn't okay with filming. I'll normally just use this exact wording. It's not a huge production. It's literally just going to be me and my camera, so I'm going to be taking up no more space than a gym partner recording his friend would. Normally, 99 times out of 100, this wording works and they'll allow me to film. So if you want to copy that exact wording, go for it. Alright, now this next tip is going to sound useless, but interact with the person on camera. It sounds crazy, but hear me out. One of the things that I think is absolutely key to getting good content is making sure that the person I'm shooting feels comfortable. Most people aren't used to having a camera shoved in their face while they train, so having some banter in between sets or just chopping it up will always help to lighten the mood. Because how awkward would it be if you're working out going ham and some random video person you just hired is just staring at you, saying no words, with a camera in your face? Gonna be pretty fucking awkward. So yeah, just chop it up, be a human. Also, read the room on this one. If the person that you're recording happens to train like an absolute psychopath who might kill you if you make eye contact with them, probably just let them continue their training session as they normally would and probably try to keep the talking to a minimum. But for the most part, I've trained with some pretty hardcore athletes. You can still chop it up between sets. They're still human beings. Now, the ladies already know about this tip, but even when shooting dudes, it is all about the angles. Number one tip as far as angles go, for me, is going to be to shoot low. No one wants to look short, so I always hold the camera about shoulder level or lower, pointing upwards. It gives the person the illusion of either looking taller or almost larger than life in a way, which just adds to the whole epic atmosphere that you're trying to create with your video. So the shorter the client and or model, the lower you're going to have to shoot. Lucky for me, Jordan, the person that you're looking at in all this footage, is exactly my height, so my back was not killing me after I was done shooting him this week. Number 2, face the camera towards the muscle group being worked. So if the person is hitting chest flies, you probably don't want to get them from behind. Pause. So if they're training arms, shots from the side work. If they're training triceps, probably don't shoot them at the front aiming at their bicep. Now, back training is one of those movements that you can get from just about any angle. From the back, you can see the muscles working. From the side, you can see the lats as well as the arms working. And then shots from the front, you'll be able to see facial expressions, thus illustrating intensity in the video. And if you're shooting a girl training glutes, keep it tasteful. Do not point the camera straight at the girl's ass. I have seen one too many tasteless gym videos and I would like it to stop. Now, if you guys want a video on specifics for shooting women in fitness, let me know down below because I could honestly talk about that for hours. Now, another thing that is absolutely key for me in the way I shoot my fitness videos is to show intensity. Now, this tip is not going to apply for everyone that you're going to film because, well, some people train like absolute pussies. But if they don't, show the genuine intensity if it's there. Now, if the person you're shooting doesn't train like a pussy, make sure to get some shots showing the struggle in their face because that will always communicate intensity. And intensity is not just shown exclusively in the face either. If they're mid-rep and you see their arms or their legs shaking, get that. If they drop a heavy-ass dumbbell or a bar loaded with a bunch of plates, make sure to grab that shot of the weights hitting the ground. If they grunt or make some sound from exerting themselves moving this heavy-ass weight, make sure to leave that audio clip in there. Do not just dub it over with music. And if after their set is done, they're leaning over a machine or a bench or something, just struggling to catch their breath, show a shot of that. All of these things will communicate intensity through the camera. Training is intense. It's violent. You're literally tearing your muscles apart on purpose. Show that intensity. All right, and another tip, this one might ruffle some feathers, but no slow-mo, or at least try not to abuse it. Now, me personally, I don't even use slow motion anymore, but on the off chance I do use it, it's brief and I'm only using it to highlight or extend certain moments that I want to draw attention to. Some examples of that would be weight hitting the floor. You might want to extend that just so people can see, oh my god, that's 5 plates hitting the ground, that's heavy as fuck. Or maybe a shot of somebody rubbing chalk together on their hands and then clapping. That always looks cool as fucking slow-mo. I know it's a little cliche, but hey, if it works, it works. Now, the reason I personally don't fuck with slow motion is because when I think intensity, I think speed. I do not think of a video where half of the entire shit is just a bunch of slow motion clips. Doesn't really make sense if everything is slow when you're trying to show intensity, at least in my brain. And now my last tip, possibly the most important one, is going to be don't be afraid to be creative. Nothing I've said previously is a hard, fast rule. If you want to try something different, go for it. If the footage happens to look like trash, just don't use that footage. The industry has more than enough copycats in it. We don't need to add any more. If you spend your entire career trying to copy or shoot like someone else, you're just a knockoff version of them. And why would I pay for a knockoff version of somebody when I could just pay for the real thing? Just saying. Just saying. And yeah, these are my main tips to make a dope fitness edit. I just want to give a huge shout out to Jordan, who you've been watching in all these clips. He is pretty much my teammate from Condemened Labz. All of this footage was shot when we were on a solid like 3.5-day trip or 3-day trip in Dallas shooting content for the brand. So there were a lot of 12-hour shoot days and this kid was just toughing it out with me, getting shit done, didn't complain one fucking time. So yeah, shout out to him. If you want to see some of the content that we've shot during that trip, be sure to follow him on his social medias as well as Condemened Labz social medias, which I will link all in the description down below. But yeah, once again, I'm Sway and I will see you in the next video. Peace.